South-South leaders make demands from the federal government, including issues of restructuring. We analyze the demands and the yearnings of the people of that region. And Minister of Foreign Affairs Onyema says the governors of the Southeast region are reaching out to their contemporaries across the country to ensure lives and properties of Igbo people are protected during crises and are committing to do the same for non-indigenes in the Southeast. Hello everyone and welcome to Politics Today on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos. Tonight we dig into the details of the demands of the South-South leaders at their meeting yesterday where the Chief of Staff to President Buhari was present, including some ministers. Also we take some perspective on look into Nigerian election. We take an inner source perspectives on the issues confronting Nigeria and how we can fix our elections. But let's tell you that the Nigerian government is reacting to deliberations on NSAS by the UK Parliament. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Geoffrey Onyema, speaks about the intervention of the UK Parliament. He was speaking today after the 25th virtual Federal Executive Council meeting, which held at the State House in Abuja. The minister, who, on the instruction of President Buhari, recently paid a visit to his home state, Enugu, to engage with the youth and leaders of the NSAS protests in the region, states that the governors of the Southeast are reaching out to their contemporaries across the country to ensure lives and properties of Igbo people are protected during crises.
The Southeast governors did address the issue of ethnicity in this whole situation, and it was in that context that they committed to assuring the security of groups that are not from the zone, to assure their protection, and also reaching out beyond their zone to their counterparts to also assure the security of Southeasterners living in other parts of the country. But I think that all this also, speaks to just the whole security apparatus that is available. Supporting the security forces to be able to defend and protect Nigerians wherever they are within the country. I think that is really what it has to be about. And of course, yes, I mean, there are other things, that governance issues that will come up at play. But I think that the most immediate one really will be having the security forces that are enabled and empowered to be able to protect every single Nigerian wherever they might find themselves in the country. On the issue of the UK Parliament, I think the point there, yes, we've reached out to the UK government on this question, and I think it's, as you pointed out, the meeting that took place was of parliamentarians, and they don't speak for the US government, and so it's and the US government, has been briefed. Sorry? The UK government has been briefed. There was UK parliamentarians meeting, and the UK government, which acts for the United Kingdom, has also, heard the side of the government regarding everything that happened. So we are in touch with them and engaging with them. But of course, as in any democracy, the members of parliament are able to also air their views. But what is important is that a balanced picture is made available to them all before they take any decisions. Thank you.
All right, we've got about an hour on the show tonight. It's the midweek edition of the program. But before we get started with the discussions, there are some other political stories that you need to know. Take a listen to them.
A federal high court in Abuja has fixed tomorrow, Thursday, November the 26th, for hearing of the bail application filed by Borno South Senator Ali Ndume, who has been remanded in prison since Monday over his suretyship for Mr. Abdulrashid Maina, who is said to have jumped bail. Mr. Maina, a former chairman of the defunct Pension Reform Task Team, is being prosecuted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on charges of money laundering involving 2 billion naira. The trial judge, Justice Okun Abang, had on November the 18th revoked the bail granted him, ordered his arrest, and directed that his trial continues in absentia. Also on Monday, the judge remanded Senator Ndume in prison until he produces Mr. Maina or pays the sum of 500 million naira bail bond to the Federation account.
In the state,
Controversial Adamawa Senator Elisha Abo has announced his defection from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress. Senator Abo announced his defection in a letter addressed to the Senate today and read by Senate President Ahmed Lawan during Wednesday's plenary. In the letter, Senator Abo explained that his decision to defect to the APC is because of what he describes as the mismanagement of the PDP in Adamawa State by Governor Umaru Fintiri. Senator Abo has been in the news for assaulting a woman in an adult toy shop in Abuja and was ordered to pay 50 million naira to the victim after the Federal High Court found him guilty. Hundreds of youths in the Ihite Uboma and Unuimo local government area of Imo State are throwing their weight behind Senator Ifeanyi Ararume of the APC in the Imo North Senatorial District by-election slated for December the 5th. The youths and indigents of the area in their hundreds trooped out to show solidarity to Senator Ararume during his campaign tour of the two local governments. Senator Ararume is promising to use his wealth of experience and influence to initiate legislation that will bring about massive infrastructural development in the area if elected senator to represent the zone. And some female lawmakers in Nigeria are seeking to have a legislative backing to increase women participation in politics. Speaking at a gathering on gender-responsive legislation in Nigeria, the lawmakers argued that the legislation that makes it compulsory for political parties and the government to reserve certain political seats for women is urgently needed in the country. According to them, the number of women in elective and appointed positions in Nigeria is too insignificant when compared to their male counterparts.
Yesterday, the federal government delegation met with South-South governors and leaders in the region in the wake of the aftermath of the NSAS protests and after an initial botched meeting last week due to an emergency security meeting. Part of the issues discussed at that meeting held in Port Harcourt is the demand for true federalism and restructuring of the country. Well, tonight, we speak to one of the leaders of that region, former Senator Magnus Abe, who joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Senator Abe, for joining us tonight on the program. Let me begin and get your view on that outcome of that meeting of yesterday. The leaders of the South-South agree that NSAS protest was a metaphor for all that is happening in the country, as well as a national wake-up call. According to them, Nigeria is not working for us all.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much. Actually, I think a lot of other Nigerians have always said that as far as is possible, the building of our country is not a project that will end. There is no day Nigeria is going to be completely and sufficiently constructed to the satisfaction of all Nigerians. So as we continue to develop as a nation, having a conversation to improve the country is desirable and continuous. It's not something that is going to end. A lot of the things that have been said by the South-South leaders and governors at the meeting in Port Harcourt are things that have been, positions that have been canvassed in this country over the years. So I don't think that there is much that is new in what has been said. What remains to be seen is how we can expand this conversation to accommodate other views across the country and bring up a structure and a system that works for most Nigerians and will enable us as a country to meet the dreams and aspirations of the majority of our citizens. I think that is what is there. Having said that, let me commend the federal government for this wonderful initiative of engaging leaders across the country, post the EndSARS protest. There is no doubt that the protest in itself and the wake of the COVID-inspired economic crisis in the country has, would I say, escalated or brought out some of the fault lines within the Federation. And this effort of the federal government to engage with leaders across the zone to share ideas and opinions with them on the way forward is a very, very commendable move, and it should be seen by all Nigerians in that context. For the South-South in particular, I think that given the controversy and some of the funny comments that tailed the first meeting that had to be aborted due to some conflicting engagements here in Abuja, the presence of the Chief of Staff and the federal delegation in the South-South on his birthday, he actually spent his birthday with the leaders of the South-South and the people of the South-South, was a very welcome touch to the entire engagement. But I don't think that there is anything that has been said in Port Harcourt that is entirely new to anybody in this country. When I was in the Senate as a senator on the side of the People's Democratic Party at that time, I was the single senator that supported the creation of state police in the PDP at that time. And nothing has changed. The call for a state police is something that I feel that this country should look at objectively. I know the concerns people have about politicization of the police. It is something that may happen with irresponsible leaders if we create a state police. But as time has shown, people can only do these things for a short while. And if they misuse the police, when they leave office, the same police would also be misused against them. But I think that our primary focus and objective should be how we can create effective security for the majority of all Nigerians. And I have always been in full support of that conversation. So I really don't see anything in the South-South position as stated that is entirely new. The presentation may reflect some political nuances in the region, and people may also hear it in some of those political nuances, but the reality of some of the positions that we're taking is constructive for the good of the country and should be looked at objectively.
Senator, when you say that what they spoke about and their position is not new, isn't that supposed to even be the major problem? Because on the backdrop of that popular saying that you cannot solve a new problem with an old way, or you cannot keep doing the same thing and expect a new result. Does it not also give us some worries or concern that we have these lingering problems and we have not been able to resolve them?
Shem, I don't know if you can hear me because I can't. I think we have a cut again.
I'm saying I can hear you. So the point I'm making is that you said that nothing really was new about some of the demands of the region leaders. So the question is that, isn't that in fact a cause for worry that we have these problems that are not new to us, but yet we are not looking for ways to resolve them?
The truth of the matter is that if you go through the Calabar Declaration, which the South-South leaders brought out some time ago during the Obasanjo regime, a lot of these issues that are stated there were still in the Calabar Declaration. So like I said, most of these things are not new. They are Nigerian challenges given the structure of our country and the kind of constitution that we have. These are not APC problems or PDP problems. They are Nigerian problems. And some of these things will help if we can form some kind of national consensus to effectively engage each other in some of these issues to try to find a balance that works for the majority of Nigerians and brings out the best in the majority of Nigerians. I think that much people all across the country are agreed on. When it comes to the reality of which position one takes on a particular issue, of course, that becomes a a different scenario, because different people would have different responses and reactions to the issues raised. But like I said at the beginning of this engagement, making Nigeria a better country is not something that is ever going to end. So even 50 years from now, when Nigerians gather, they will still talk about how to make the country better and what changes can be brought about to improve on what they already have. If you look at the situation today in the United States, after 200 and something years of democratic practice, people are beginning to talk about amending the Constitution to take care of some of the challenges that has propped up recently in the US. Even in the UK, amending the Constitution, which is actually unwritten, and changing how they do things has been continuous. Within this last parliament, Boris Johnson just made a major change in how the British Parliament conducts its business over time, and changed the way things had been done for literally hundreds of years, you know. So making the country better is a conversation that must continue. In this particular instance, what the federal government has done is to engage leaders across the zones to try to create an atmosphere where people can discuss effectively and share views on the way forward.
Senator Abe,
understand that some of these challenges are not things that the federal government can, on its own, change.
All right. So let's take a breather. But when we come back, we're looking at solutions to some of these problems. And there are familiar words, there are familiar demands. But can we use familiar ways to resolving them? Can we not fashion a permanent solution to some of these issues? We get your closing thoughts when we return from this break, everyone. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. And let's get back to the conversation around the demands of the South-South leaders with a meeting with a federal government delegation yesterday in Port Harcourt. Senator Magnus Abe is one of the leaders of the South-South region and is speaking with us from our Abuja studio. Senator, let's get some of your closing thoughts on this matter. If you look at some of the demands, the demand for true federalism, devolution of powers, true fiscal federalism, restructuring, relocation of international oil companies to the region, state policing, amongst others. Those are some of the issues that were raised. But these demands, Senator Abe, they look more or less like those that have been captured in the 2014 Confab report. How easy will the implementation of some of these demands be, and the fear that this will not just be a mere talk shop?
Well, Sean, the truth of the matter is that there's some of those things that it will be difficult for the government on its own to change or to implement on its own. These are issues that concern the entire Nigerian Federation. And what the advice I would like to give to the South-South leaders is that they should also engage leaders from across the country, not just the federal government. Because some of these things will require constitutional amendment. They'll require building some broad consensus. And from my understanding of the way this country works, the best way to get something out of Nigeria for Nigerians to agree to is that you make it a win-win so that everybody sees what they are going to get, how it makes things better for them, and how their own lives too will improve as a result of these changes. There are some of these changes that actually meet that criteria, that will help the country to run better, be more efficient, be more effective, and allow all sections of the country to generate and create wealth with their own citizens and residents. I prefer to use the word residents, will enjoy. But where you present or push some of these things as if it's a sectional or a regional priority, you may not get the consensus that you need to be able to achieve them. For example, if you're talking about relocating businesses to the Niger Delta, I believe that outside of the federal government fiat to move businesses to the region, the Niger Delta leaders themselves can also put their heads together to see how they can make the operating environment in the region more cost-effective for the international oil companies and for oil companies generally. Because in terms of cost, there is no way it makes more economic sense for a country that has its operational base in, say, Akwa Ibom to have its offices in Lagos. But there are certain facilities in Lagos that makes it attractive to the chief executive and the heads of those companies to stay in Lagos rather than in Akwa Ibom. So if we also do our bit to create a better, more conducive, more effective environment in the region, some of these companies may not even wait for the federal government to tell them to move. A lot of them on their own, just out of business expediency, will love to move to the region. So we shouldn't just focus on trying to pass the buck and play the blame game. We should do our bit, engage leaders across the country to work with us to make Nigeria better, and also get the federal government to cooperate where we need the federal government cooperation. But all in all, like I said, the conversation to make this country better is an ongoing one. The initiative of the federal government is commendable. The issues raised by the leaders of the South-South needs to be looked at. Like I said, there may be political nuances in how some of these things are presented and in how they are received. But the reality that we need to engage in trying to make the country better, nobody can deny that. And I don't think that anybody in his right senses would say that the engagement by the federal government is not timely, critical, necessary, and applaudable at this time. I think it should be applauded. And I thank the Chief of Staff for spending his birthday with the leaders of the South-South. That was a very important
Senator
touch,
Abe,
given the sensibilities in the region.
Right, we need to, I'm being told that we need to wrap up this very session, and I'll probably we want to give you a task, very difficult. In 30 seconds, I don't know how easy that would be for you to answer this question, because since you're here with us and you know so much about this very question I'm going to ask, I'd like to get your view on it, perhaps in 30 seconds. Let me get your view on a major factor affecting the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. The proper legal framework, the PIB, has been some of the issue that has been raised. It's faced some turbulent time in parliamentary debate over the last few years, and it never gets to an end. But experts say it is important to reshape the sector, but for it to happen, the PIB needs to be passed. Why has it been so difficult to pass the PIB for several years?
Sure, in 30 seconds, it's difficult for anybody to give a clear answer to that. But what I would say is that the kind of engagement and traction that we are getting on the PIB at this time has been absent in all previous efforts and attempts to restructure the oil industry by changing the legal framework through the law. But in this particular time now, you have the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria fully involved, you have the Minister fully involved, and you have clear commitments from the leader, the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the Senate President that this time the PIB is going to be a reality. I think that at this point, the most important thing is for us to ensure that we get a law that is clear in what it states and in what it expects of the industry, so that industry planners can make their plans based on the true contents of the law. So I believe that while we have struggled with the PIB for almost 15 years now, I do believe that this time around the result will be different. We will have a PIB. That's what I believe.
Senator Magnus Habe, thank you so much indeed for talking to us and coming on the show tonight.
Thank you, Sharon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Appreciate it. Well, let's switch gears now to the issues of Nigerian election. The Electoral Act Amendment Bill has passed its second reading on the floor of the House of Representatives, and the plan is to pass the bill in good time before political events take over. Meanwhile, there have been several developments since the past governorship elections in Ondo and Edo State. INEC leadership is gearing up for some changes, and tonight we shall be talking to an insider on the Nigerian elections and the way forward. Mr. Mike Igeni is a resident electoral commissioner for INEC in Akwa Ibom State, and he joins us here in the Lagos studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Igeni, for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Sean.
So much to talk about.
Thank
but
you.
where do we start from?
Right.
Let me start from perhaps some personal issues. I know you went to court over that Edo matter that I mentioned,
Yes.
and you were not quite happy with what you went to court. There were libel suit that you filed in court, an allegation against you. Where is that now?
Well, Sean, thank you very much for having me. With respect to that, what I simply say is that it's most unfortunate that people who have no sense of history, who indeed have no book of remembrance of where people like us we are coming from, where we are going, and what we have done before, even in that state, for one, Colonel Mose and Mayaki, to come up with such irresponsible and very reckless allegations. On the 1st of December, we're looking forward to seeing them in courts to come up with evidence of what they have done. You see, the writer, Nigerian writer lady, who said that it takes humility and courage for people to admit of the truth they know is untrue. A man cannot be in two places at the same time. And so, for these two men, they will have their day in court.
All right.
On the 1st of December.
Before I go into the next matter, we're getting some development regarding some incident, an event on the floor of the Senate today when the Adamawa lawmaker, Senator Abo, defected from the PDP to the APC. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party has responded and said, we will not allow Senator Abo to run with our mandate. The party came out with a statement, and I'm going to read some parts of it. It says, the party says, is fully aware of the constitutional implication of his defection to another party, which is that he cannot continue to occupy the seat of the PDP in the Senate. The place of any senator who change parties except on the grounds provided by the Constitution is very clear, and the PDP will not allow Senator Abo to run away with our mandate. It is impossible. That is the People's Democratic Party when the senator said there is mismanagement of the party affairs in his home state of Adamawa. So let me get back to the conversation with Mr. Igeni. Also, there is another court case that you are involved with. The two university professors who are now on trial over the election in Akwa Ibom State. The court issued a warrant of arrest on Professor Uduk. Where has these things gotten to that level?
Well, it's most unfortunate. But I think that the point is very clear. You just talk about PIB since 1999. This is where we are. Since 1999, we'll be talking about the Electoral Offences Commission. This is where we are. This is because without elite consensus, society will never make progress. How far will we go in this country as a people, and as a country, is dependent on the consensus of the elite. In fact, what we are having now is that there's a continual depletion of social capital. No country go and check that we ever make progress without, increase in social capital. And what is social capital? The cooperative capacity for people to work together for common good. This is our problem. And so, with respect to the two professors you mentioned, one has been arraigned in court. That is Professor Ogban. His guilt will be determined by the courts. But our complaint, our charge that will be determined by the court is clearly on the basis of the fact that in an election where a presiding officer had made a declaration, the work election officer have already made that declaration, collated it, and handed over to a professor of a university from the ivory tower. People of presumed integrity. But what happened? A professor uttered change that outcome. Somebody has 35,000, For instance, 50,000 votes, 35,000 votes, total vote is 50,000. You have 35,000, I have 15,000. In the course of returning, reduce 50,000 from your vote, added to my own, but the total is remain 50,000. Just to show that he's smart. But regrettably, unknown to him, the tracking system we had in place, the EOSC, the Electoral Support Center.
Is it a computer?
Oh, no, we have a system across where we track everything. I don't need
materials, transportation?
Absolutely. From the Central Bank, I sit in my office. Every 30 minutes, they staff about 20 who are in charge. They will be printing record for me from local government to local government, word to word, pulling to you. What is going on? I see everything.
And this started from 2019 election?
Well, of course, it's been a process we're building. And this is, of course, this 2019 election, it was something that we had in all the states. Implementation may be different. But in Akwa Ibom State, it is 100% implemented. And so we're able to track that.
Let Nigerians get the clarity.
Yes.
So you can sit in your office as a rec and monitor the progress and the process of election.
Absolutely. From the movement of men and materials, I track you. I sit in my office. A presiding officer posted to a polling unit. All of them, I have all their telephone. And we have supervisors everywhere. And they report to the EOSC Center, the Electoral Operations Support Center. You have computers all over the place, telephone, and you print report for me every 20 minutes about trends, what is going on, where there are violence, where there's any, action that are not expected in that place. That's what we put in place. So he didn't know. We caught him. Now, good enough, his guilt will be determined in court. So he sub judice. But with respect to the one that is on the run, Professor Uduk, his whole case is terrible. Here is a professor, somebody, BSc holder, a master degree holder, a professor. You wrote in your handwriting that someone whose name he had not disclosed to the commission gave you a result to announce, to make a declaration. Every effort to have you to come and do a debriefing, you ran away. The same time, you went to court to do another affidavit, saying that, in fact, and indeed, election took place. Every effort to call you abortive. A panel was set up by the head office to go into the matter. You threatened INEC that INEC should never call you again for the briefing, that you would rather go to court. Now we are in court. He's running away. He could not be served. The university cannot reach out to him. He's out of Uyo right now. A professor will be hiding. So that was
there's a warrant of arrest.
To the court giving a warrant of arrest. So
but it's not only this professor.
Anywhere he's seen in Nigeria, he'll be arrested. The next date is on the 9th. It will be in his best interest to be in the court, to come and take his plea on the 9th of December. Otherwise, you see, a court warrant of arrest is different from the other police warrant of arrest. Because once, anytime the police you are seen anywhere, once you are arrested, you'll be taken to prison straight to the next adjourned date. That is the danger. So he has to respect himself to appear in court on the 9th.
But Mr. Igeni, it is not only these two professors that they have found wanting in their role in that election. Also, some staff of INEC were found wanting.
Absolutely.
And we understand that you have...
Oh, they've been dismissed. They've been dismissed. A panel
How many of them?
3 of them have been dismissed. And the about that for senior, while looking at the case, we are looking at the degree of their action and how impactful it would have been. Probably you take other measures and all that. But the point is this.
The question, sorry, apologies. Yeah. So when you dismiss this people, that means the commission have found them wanting.
Yeah, sure.
And that's an electoral offense, isn't it? Would you prosecute that?
Offenses are in categories. There are actions that are pre-election matters that have to do with perhaps registration. And these categories of staff, their own action have to do with registration. Because this country were part of having a biometric register for this country, the most robust data of Nigerians of voting age. For any staff of ours to try to mess that process up, that staff will have to be dealt with. So the degree of offense is different from that of a professor. Those of them who were now trying to change the will of the people, contrary to what had been expressed at the polling unit, at the work collation center, as collated, then you utter that. That is a very serious.
So those
very grave
those ones
offense.
that done by your staff are just misdemeanor in the eyes of the law.
Yes, of course they have to do with administrative actions that would have impacted negatively by
on the election.
In the elections.
Well, I mean, from Mr. Igini, from Edo to
Yes.
Ondo,
Yes.
a lot of people applauded INEC to say, look, in fact, the creation and the introduction of your the portal
Yes.
gave some kind of a breath of fresh air that people could monitor the election. So one would think that things are getting better. Are things getting better, really?
Absolutely. I can tell you, I can confirm to you here that INEC has made tremendous progress. The problem we have today is no longer INEC of before, because it's 2011. The kind of election that we have conducted have a remarkable departure from where we used to be before, even though we are still not where we are looking at. But in order to safeguard the integrity of the process, which is more important, because the process is what we are interested in. The outcome should be determined by the electorate. In fact, the expression is that our job is to ensure sanctity of procedure in order to safeguard substantive or sanctity of outcome, only to be determined by the people. Now, the INEC public viewing portal is a new innovation to deal with the recurring issue of vote changes at the level of collation. And that's why that was introduced, to ensure that at the polling unit, once the result is declared, is published, of course, it should be sent to the viewing portal so that Nigerians can see it. Because the way we are going, I'm very sure not too far from now, Channels Television, all other stations, for now, it's INEC that we have to make declaration. You could do what the CNN and other television stations do in America by making projections. You all know that in the Edo you referred to and the Ondo State, even before INEC made that declaration, there was no tension in the country, particularly in those areas, because people already had access. They could see the result. That's where we are going. But the problem we are having, shown, which is a major problem for our country, is that the elite, the political elite of our country, they are the greatest threat to our democracy. The political, they are in disarray. They are the ones attacking both the hardware and the software of INEC in order to bring about credible election in our country. Look at what happened in Akwa Ibom in 2019. Look at all the properties that were destroyed. And I'm sure you have some.
I guess my producer will give us that pictures of some of the burnt.
15 vehicles were, 11 vehicles were set ablaze. 15 vandalized.
Okay, so that's your office there?
Yes.
That were burned?
Burnt?
Inside the premises of the...
All right, INEC office all burnt. You could see.
The generators.
All right, generators, 22 generators were all burnt. Carried out 160 burnt. These are money that we spend, the public money, to procure this. And it's a setback to us. In fact, the building that was bombed was one of the newest buildings we have just put together. That is the kind of thing you see. Now, tragically, and those vehicles you are seeing, these were service providers. These were means of livelihood of members of families. Some of who even came to say, look, a particular vehicle that was burned, that they lost their father, they sold their land to purchase this vehicle to take care of their family. In that election, the Nigerian elite, who are now using violence, deployment of violence to win election, look at what they did. And we are now appealing to people to see what we could do to assist these people who have been affected by this development.
What's causing this desperation? Because it smells, I mean, one can perceive, I mean, why would anybody go to that length to destroying properties of a public institution like INEC?
You see, what we have seen is that politics now is now the biggest business in Nigeria. Everybody wants to go into politics because incentives are so high. All right? And because they have failed, political parties have failed to mobilize people around issues that matter to their material condition. And the fact that what you take home as a public officer, a politician, is so high. And people are now desperate. Meanwhile, it's supposed to be about service. Why do you kill people in order to serve them?
Invariably, you're
Yes.
saying that political offices are too juicy,
Absolutely.
are too...
In fact, people now go to banks to take loans, to go into politics. People are closing their businesses to go into politics. Why? And so...
That's perhaps one
really,
of the reasons for the
it's a
desperation.
threat for our democracy. The elites, they are the greatest threat today. And we have to do something about it. Particularly the fact that, as it is today, for you to conduct the election, we are now having to have security all over the place. In neighboring state, Ghana here, a presiding officer will go home with the ballot paper and result sheet. On the second day, he comes to the polling unit. But in Nigeria, we have to have ballot papers to be kept in the air-conditioned room in Central Bank of Nigeria. In fact, they join the same comfort with our Naira, in Central Bank. And we have policemen all over the place. We have to stop that. And because people want to rig election.
Mr. Igeni, would electronic voting at least resolve a percentage of some of these problems?
You see, we have to... I heard people talking about electronic voting. In the United States of America, we have multi-system there. In 50 states, they have different systems. The issue of electronic voting is still an issue. What you have in America are voting machines. A voting machine is a standalone machine without connected to any internet. You put in your ballot paper, you will see a screen showing the number of ballots that have gone in and sent equal to count. That is what you have there. So when you talk about voting machine, Nigeria, look at our level of infrastructure. Ordinary car reader that we're talking about. What is going on? People don't want to even have anything to do with car reader. Look at how they are attacking the car reader. Today, look at local government system in Nigeria. We have lost 774 local government in Nigeria to every sitting governor of the 36 state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Local government elections are nothing but organized crime. So they should not be calling them election at all. Because what constitutes free, fair, and credible election with respect to INEC conducted election is different from local government.
Looks like a winner-take-all situation.
That is what is going on. Can you compare that to what is going on in the U.S.? Regardless of the political party in charge of any state in the United States of America, as you can see going on right now in America, the party will record the votes of American people as expressed through the ballot.
So we are not ready for electronic voting.
Let me tell you, it has to be gradual. From what we are doing now, let us consolidate even what we are doing right now. I'm saying car reader. Why are people afraid of car reader? All the local government elections, well, don't call them election. These are mere organized crime. They are nothing but, coronation ceremony that you have across the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But Nigerians are not doing anything about it, that you have lost your local government, that there's no democracy taking place there. Do you know that we may not even need to deregister political parties? If you allow true election to take place in the local government system, all these other political parties, they will win 1, 2, or 3 local government. Once they win a local government or 2, a political party, any of these new political parties, you know what will happen? That will be the end of the control of local government fund through the joint state account, the JAC account, because party A, B, and C will not allow the money of its own local government to be hijacked by any sitting government of a controlling party. And it will run that local government differently. With that, political party will be able to build up and before you now graduate by way of threshold to INEC conducted election. Because the people who are graduating now to INEC conducted election, they don't have no democratic values.
Mr. Igeni, let me get your views quickly because I still have loads and loads of issues to take up with you. Is regarding the issue of the amendment to the electoral law in Nigeria. How critical would that be for the next election, major election in Nigeria? That's going to be 2023.
Well, fundamentally, for us on the part of INEC, I think the only thing that we consider very serious that this amendment that we're looking forward to be very helpful is the issue about the car reader. But even without that before, we are very comfortable with Section 160 of the Constitution. It's something that should happen, particularly as regards to political party primaries and convention. You see, one of the first duty of political party is to present candidate for election. But you could see in Nigeria, party primary is a problem in Nigeria. And that is why the proposal we have seen in the ongoing amendment, and we urge the National Assembly that they should take this historic step and be able to deliver this time around to ensure that what we have seen that they have proposed, if carried out, will be a watershed, because political party primary is a problem in Nigeria. And as you know very well, what is the reason why we don't want the election, that we are very, very serious when it comes to the issue about interfering with the vote of the people, is the fact that Joseph Scopita made the point that in any democracy, the choice of who becomes a candidate are first and foremost made by the elite, those who have influence and power. In the final analysis, those that we call out the people to come and vote for are already choices already made by the elite. And so, even when you have made a choice of people that ordinarily, if subjected to the general people of your party, they may not be candidates and all that, it will also be very wrong to think that having brought an unpopular candidate and in an election, you must run through any process to become, to get what you want. And that is why we frown at election rigging, because democracy, election, is the bedrock of democracy. If votes do not count, people will lose faith in democracy. Right. And that is why we take that issue very seriously. And we are doing everything we should do, to ensure that we bring, confidence in the electoral process by ensuring that those who try to mess up with the process must be dealt with. And what we have done in what you're talking about in Akwa Ibom, it's not new. In Cross River, similar situation happened. People tried to mess up the process. A commission proceeded against them, and they were sent to jail.
Mr. Igini, there is a very critical thing here, and it's the fact that Nigeria, in our democratic process, we like to mirror their American federal system and their democratic practice. What lesson do you think we can take from the American election? After a week, they were still, almost a week, they're still unable to know the winner of that election.
Yes. You see, democracy, you cannot talk about democracy without having Democrats. You cannot go to the ceremony of exchanging your garment without wearing a garment. Democracy is not about sound bites. Democracy is about values. It's about principle. It's about attitude. It's about practices that are themselves not a final product that you just oppose or you graft into a society. They are nourished, enriched, and they grow with the growth of society. So, in Nigeria, you ask the kind of people that you have coming into politics. Because the leadership recruitment process is very important. If you want to look at how well a company is doing well, you check the recruitment policy. And so when you look at America, everything we've been talking about America before, here we are having Donald Trump, who does not play by the rule. But what is saving America today is the institutional resilience. Because institutions are the only thing that can safeguard the destiny of any nation. And so, institutional building is key. So for INEC, we have a message, to the fact that we must continue to do what we are doing to ensure that the process, remains what it should be to deliver free, fair, and credible election. For the media, in terms of what do we need to learn from that? If you look at what is happening in America today, the media has a role in defending the process. All the allegations that have been thrown up by Trump and his supporters, what happens? The media will do its own report, independent report, to say there's no evidence of what we are talking about. Judiciary. Look at what is happening in America. Every issue taken to the court, they were dealt to it within hours. Within hours. That is how it is done. Now, the security personnel in America, have you seen where the policemen are in one way or the other involved in what is going on? Not at all. You don't see that happening. But you could see America defending their system. Even in Kenya here, somebody committed an offense in 2030. We were there. On the 4th, when the election took place of March, on the 5th, it was arraigned in court, and it was jailed for 3 years. Immediately, it was done with. Look at this about election petition. Right here in Nigeria, we spend so much time, 80 days, 60 days at the Court of Appeal, 60 at the level of the Court of the Supreme Court. Why so? Why can't we have sanctity of time? Like in America now, by 20th, no matter what anybody is doing, by 20th there will be handover. But in Nigeria, what do? We will have to wait until after somebody has been sworn in and all that. So we should revert back to 1978 as well as also as 1983, where election petition matters are resolved before people are sworn in, to avoid using public money to be pursuing election petition. That is the way we must go in our country. As well, maybe when in due course, we have to look at how really whether the onus of proof as to when election is conducted, where should it go and all of that.
Mr. Mike Igini, always a pleasure having you to talk about. Every time you're on the show, it's always bringing out some of these critical issues. But we're glad that you are here tonight again. Thank you so much, Mr. Mike Igini, the wreck of the Akwa Ibom, INEC wreck in Akwa Ibom. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Well, that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.